Hello, New Testament students, and welcome to our class. If you found this video, you started in the right place. In this video, what I'm going to do is walk us through some elements of the syllabus. I'm going to make some comments on some of the things that I have put into the syllabus. The purpose of this is so that I can explain to you some of the things that I think are most important about this class, and also explain to you some of the pedagogical decisions that I have made about what's in the syllabus, what we're doing, and why we're doing things that way. As a professor, I think it's very important for you to know why we do what we do. And if you ever have questions about why we engage material the way that we do, I really encourage you to reach out to me and ask those questions. And also, I always encourage you to give feedback on what you think is working in the class and what is not working for you in the class. This class is a course community. It's not me dictating to you what we do. We are working together to support your learning. So what we're first going to do is walk through some elements of the syllabus, and then I'm going to walk us through the course page as well to show you what you can expect to find on the course page. Some of it you may have already poked around already, but to really point out the important things about each, what's contained in each week, and where you should focus your attention, and the concrete things that you need to do each week in order to succeed in this class. So let's start by looking over at the course syllabus. Here it is. Here is our cover page. This image is a 6th century painting of Jesus called Christ in Glory. You see my contact information here. All of the grade items for this class. We'll talk about how grading works in this class in just a moment here, as well as some important dates associated with these different grade items. You'll also see front and center on the syllabus, the course thesis. You can in essence think about this entire class as unpacking this course thesis. And this relates directly to our first course outcome. So I take course outcomes very seriously as a professor. These are the things that I think you should be able to do at the end of this semester if you successfully complete the class. And the first is be able to explain what the New Testament is. In essence, you will be able to, at the end of the semester, explain that course thesis that I gave you on the first page of the syllabus. It's something we'll come back to in every lecture video for this class. Some other things you'll be able to do when this class is over, you'll be able to talk productively about the different genres that make up New Testament texts and what's contained in those genres. You'll be able to explain the history, theology, culture, and religious context of the New Testament documents, and you'll be able to evaluate the interpretive debates that take place about particular New Testament texts. What you'll see is that not everyone has the same perspective on various issues of New Testament interpretation. You'll be able to sort of lay out some of those debates and come to your own position on some of them. And then ultimately, in this seminary context, this course hopefully will foster a deeper love and appreciation of Scripture for you. Not only Scripture, but also interpreting Scripture and applying it to your own modern ecclesial context. Next thing on the syllabus here is our required text. Hopefully you have acquired these already. We will begin week 1, jumping right in with Mitzi Smith and Young Suk Kim's Toward Decentering the New Testament, and Warren Carter's 7 events that shaped the New Testament world. I want to make one comment about this first text. Actually, I'll make a comment about each of the texts really quick. Toward Decentering the New Testament. This is a sort of non-standard, and by non-standard I mean it doesn't work the same way a lot of other New Testament introductory texts work. A lot of other New Testament introductory texts sort of take a more scientific or objective approach to interpretation, sort of lay out the issues of interpretation, sometimes in a disinterested manner, as if this is sort of pure data that we can engage. Whereas Smith's and Kim's textbook is different insofar as they particularly are interested in bringing their own perspectives, their own sociological perspectives to the interpretation of the New Testament text. And one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do in this class is to name your own perspective, name your own context, and celebrate those as an integral part of engaging the New Testament. And so this is one of the things that I think Toward Decentering the New Testament does really, really well. It doesn't pretend to be completely objective, but names the presuppositions and brings to interpreting the New Testament and celebrates those. The Gospel of Stories, our second book here by Janine Brown, is going to be used as a sort of for a book report or a guided essay on reading the gospel text as narratives. And then 7 events that shape the New Testament world is really going to be used in the first few weeks of the class to engage the world behind the New Testament, those cultural influences that gave rise to the culture that the New Testament came out of. 2 more required texts, a Gospel Parallels book. You can find these for relatively cheap used. What a Gospel Parallels does is it lays out the synoptic Gospels, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, in columns. We'll talk about what the synoptic Gospels are and the benefits of laying out them in columns for comparison. And then also the new Oxford Annotated Bible. Strictly speaking, if you have a different study Bible that you like, I'm okay with that. I just want you to have a critical study Bible that engages issues of the history of the New Testament text. And then lastly, recommended text here is Mark Allen Powell's Introducing the New Testament. This is one of those more standard New Testament texts that is a little bit, or purports to be a little bit more objective in its approach. It is very much interested in theological, historical, and literary issues. It's a fantastic New Testament text. I've used to use it for all of my New Testament classes before making the switch. So it really forms as a good sort of complement to Smith and Kim's textbook. So it's worth looking at and acquiring, and it might be particularly useful for you if you choose to do a presentation on a New Testament text, which we'll talk about in just a second here when it comes to grading. So, and here we are at grading. This class uses a non-standard grading system. So rather than being a percentage-based model where each assignment has a sort of weight assigned to it, the way that you earn your grade in this class is by completing a certain amount of items at a certain threshold. So everything in this class is going to be graded on a pass-fail basis, and the number of things that you do indicates your final grade. So the number of things you do in these 2 different categories, the minor category and the major category, is going to get you to your final grade. The minor items are of 2 different sorts. We'll talk a little bit more about those, what those are later on, but they're going to, in short, be weekly course notes and discussion forums. The major items are 5 different items of different sorts. They're meant to engage different learning styles at different points in the semester. And here you see a sort of table breakdown about what you need to do to achieve whatever grade you want in the class. And note that you have to hit both numbers. So if you want to get an A in this class, you have to complete 25 minor items and 5 major items. If you complete 25 minor items, but only 4 major items, you have earned a B+ in the class and not an A. And then I give you here grace tokens. There are 3 grace tokens that you start with in this class. There are opportunities to earn more. Earning grace is not something we normally say, but in this case, you get to earn more grace tokens by doing certain things in the class that are sort of above and beyond. And you can see here what the different grace tokens can be used for. I give you some course policies, some fine print where I sort of just lay out some of the things that are important to me that I want you to have in writing, such as my teaching philosophy, what we're doing in the discussion forums. I really think of the discussion forums as sort of the basis for our course community where we're engaging one another in thought. And I tell you sort of about that there and also about how to get credit for those discussion forums. One of the things I do not do is I do not ask you to reply to a certain amount of posts, but I ask you to reply substantively to your peers in the discussion forums, and you are the judge of whether your engagement is substantive or not. So that's on you. I'm not necessarily going to go in and count how many words you have responded to or with. But rather ask that, recognizing that the forums are a place where we are engaging course community together, that you offer substantive engagement with your peers and with me in that space. I have digital office hours on Zoom and there's a link to this on the course Moodle page where you can drop in and we can talk synchronously. Here I lay out course notes and ask you not to cheat in this class. I try and avoid sort of policing language in in my syllabi, and I try and police you as little as possible because I think that doesn't facilitate best learning. But here I do lay out some of the things that I expect and hope for with respect to plagiarism and use of materials. I give you a frequently asked questions. I'm not going to go through that here. And the course schedule. So the course will open week by week. So you won't be able to see week 2 when you first come into the week. You'll only be able to see week 1. But you can come to the course schedule to see what readings there are should you want to get ahead for some reason. All right, let's move on over to our course page here. So if you have accessed this video, you have probably already seen the course page. Maybe you've poked around on it. You found this link right here, the welcome video. But I want to make a couple other comments about what's here. Here I give you the syllabus and the syllabus components. Say you can't remember what you need to do for a certain assignment or what you need to do to get a certain grade. You can just click on specifications grading rather than having to wade through what is a somewhat long syllabus. But what I really want to talk about here is the different weeks in the class and how what you need to do each week for the class and how to best engage the material in this course. So I always advise you to start with the link at the top, which is an introduction to the week, where I will, in this same format, speak directly to you, tell you what the learning outcomes are for the week and what you need to do for the week. Under this, there will always be topics, what we're engaging this week, and then objectives. And you can see here I give some verbiage of what the objectives are in this first week. I won't contain that parentheses in subsequent weeks. This is just to sort of give you the information in the format I'm going to speak right now, but also in writing. So these objectives are the things that after the week is done, you should be able to do without reference to your notes or any material. So these are sort of the bullet point list of the concrete things that you should be able to do after you've engaged all the materials for the week. These objectives also serve as the basis for short answer questions on exams. They will be repeated exactly as you see them on the course Moodle page. So you can expect to see these objectives again, and you can expect to be asked to complete them in an exam format. Course notes. So the two things that you need to make sure that you do every single week, or depending on what grade you want to get, a certain number of times, it's course notes and the forums. This first one, course notes, asks you to do two different things. First, it asks you to engage the lectures in what I call lecture pauses. So most of the videos in this class, you'll find that I ask you to pause the video and complete some kind of task. And those tasks are also going to be indicated in the course notes document. So every week, I'm going to give you a course notes document that has the lecture pause within it so that you can complete it there. Or if you prefer to take handwritten notes, I want you to be able to do that. And I actually encourage taking handwritten notes. You can do these lecture pauses via handwriting, either by printing out this course notes page and filling it out, or simply by doing the same kinds of things in a notebook or in a binder or whatever you would normally use to take notes. I am going to ask you to turn in course notes every week. You can do that by submitting the Word document here that's filled out, or by simply taking a picture of the notes that you create and submitting it to this Dropbox. The reason for this is so that, one, to keep you responsible for engaging lectures and engaging readings, but more importantly, it's for me to see how you all as students are engaging the material. What you're picking up, what is getting missed on sort of a class-wide basis. So then the other part of course notes is going to be your reading notes. So you can if you take reading notes in a certain way, once again, you can continue to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to take course notes or how to take reading notes, but I am going to ask you to submit something to me about your reading for the week. And at the end of every course notes document, I give a prompt that asks you 3 different questions about the readings that you can answer in just a sentence or so. So your reading notes do not have to be extensive. I'm really looking just to see how you are engaging material, what you're liking about it, what's surprising you, and what you still have questions about. You'll also find here primary text readings. Normally this will be a text or one or more text, from the New Testament, our secondary text readings, which are going to be from our required textbooks, and then also often from Bible Odyssey. So you see here a link to a video from Timothy Beale on what the Bible is. Then under this is the lectures. So I encourage you to try and do the readings first before you come to the lectures. A lot of times the lectures are sort of going to clarify and pull things out from the readings. Sometimes there will be some overlap between readings and lectures, but normally I think of lectures sort of as further engagement of what you're doing in the readings. So I try and structure the course in such a way as you start from the top and move towards the bottom. I also will always give you the lecture slides so you don't have to worry about getting all of the information down. One of my commitments as a teacher is that taking notes shouldn't be, at least in lecture format, shouldn't be a way for me to sort of give you information. There are better ways for me to give you raw data or raw information than speaking it to you. So normally the lecture videos are meant to get you to engage the material in a certain way. So for that reason, I give you the slides to take the pressure off of trying to get down all the material or get down everything that I present on a slide onto your own paper. I also will every week give you these study questions and content. These are sort of just things that you might want to answer and want to know for exams in the future. So sort of taking a look at this document and filling out the various questions on it might behoove you for the future. What I will give you study guides for the exams, but those study guides are going to be built on these study questions and content. So if you want to sort of keep up week by week with what might appear again on an exam, this is the place to look for that material. And lastly here, I give you 2 different forums. There will always be one forum that sort of engages the material for the week. This first week's discussion forum is going to simply ask you to introduce yourself. But then there's also always a questions and curiosities forum. And this is the space that I ask you to pose questions about the course. If you have a question about, it might be a technical issue of how to complete an assignment, or it might be a question about some of the material you've engaged this week. If it's not of a private nature, I ask you first pose your question here. And the reason for this is, one, someone else might have the same question you do. Posing the question there allows other people to see the answer to it and get an answer that they might have, or they might get an answer to a question that they didn't even know they had. Second, it also allows other students to answer questions for you. So if you have a question and another student might be able to answer more quickly than I do. I always try and get back to these within 24 hours, or at least within one workday. Sometimes over the weekends, that won't be the case. And the same is true for email. If you want to contact me with a more private question, by all means, send me an email. My policy is always to try and get back to you within one workday. So you have figured out, or I have at least communicated to you, the way that I think you should best engage this course, where you need to go to do things. And so your task now is to go ahead and jump into week 1. You can do so by by clicking on that link at the top of it and then moving towards your readings for the week. I look forward to having each one of you in class and learning with you this semester.